The shattered hulls and scorched corpses of a dozen Zorgon warships drifted lifelessly as the ancient human fleet, long dormant and now awakened, ripped through their formation with weapons beyond imagining. In the dark auditorium, the Cardassian students gazed in rapt attention at the shifting holograms depicting the fleet's devastating power. Izar, his craggy face illuminated by the glowing projections, spoke in a low, resonant voice. You have all heard the stories, the myths of the progenitors and their godlike technology. For eons, the greatest minds of 1,000 worlds sought to unravel their secrets, to claim even a fraction of their might. The ancient Cardassian paused, his eyes glinting with the weight of history. And then, in an uncharted expanse, an Empire scout located a ghost fleet of colossal vessels, each one dwarfing our mightiest dreadnoughts. The Zorgons and Krell raced to seize this power, dismissing the absent creators as long extinct. Izar's voice dropped to a whisper, every student straining to hear. They were wrong. As the scavengers approached with greed in their hearts, the ships awakened. Faster than thought, swarms of drones and directed energy weapons of unbelievable potency shredded the intruders. Dukat, our expedition commander, barely escaped with his life. The historian straightened, his expression grim. And then we discovered the truth, a revelation that shook the very foundations of galactic civilization. These progenitor ships were not relics of a vanished race, but the creation of a species we had dismissed, enslaved, and underestimated for centuries, the humans of Earth. Izar's voice now rang with a mix of awe and dread. This fleet was their masterwork, a last resort hidden away in case their uprising against the hegemony failed. If we do not tread carefully, if we cannot convince them that we are now allies and not overlords, then the humans will unleash this armada, and the galaxy will burn. Izar's voice turned grim as he continued his tale. The Cardassian delegation, the Zorgons and the Krell knew they had to act. They couldn't let this human armada go unchecked, so they sent their finest diplomat, Garrick, cunning and silver-tongued, to parley with the fleet. The Cardassian's eyes narrowed. Garrick's ship, flanked by Zorgon and Krell vessels, approached the human fleet under a flag of truce. But before they could even hail the fleet, a single massive ship, bristling with weapons, broke off from the armada. It was the TDS Prometheus, and it dwarfed the largest Cardassian ship. Izar's voice dropped low. Garrick opened a channel ready to negotiate, to find some common ground, but when the view screen flickered to life, it wasn't some strange alien that greeted him. It was a human, a male, calling himself Captain Jeremy Cooper. The historian's gaze swept over the silent students. Cooper delivered a revelation that shook the galaxy. The fleet, he said, belonged to the Terran Dominion, a human civilization that had been watching us from the shadows for centuries. Humanity was no fledgling species, they were an ancient power. Izar's voice was tinged with disbelief. The Vortan expanse, which we thought was an empty region of space, was nothing more than a buffer between human space and the rest of the galaxy. And this fleet? A relic of humanity's past, reactivated to keep us in line. He shook his head. Garrick, ever the diplomat, tried to salvage the situation. He offered to establish relations between the Cardassian Empire and this Terran Dominion. But Cooper wasn't having it. Humanity, he said, had no interest in engaging with what they saw as primitive civilizations. Izar's voice grew tense. As the Prometheus powered up its weapons, Cooper gave a final warning. Leave the Vortan expanse immediately or suffer the consequences. And with that, the channel went dead. The Cardassian historian paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. The students sat in rapt attention, sensing the impending storm. Izar's voice was barely a whisper. The Terran Dominion and the galactic powers were on a collision course, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Izar took a deep breath, scanning the faces of his captivated audience. Dukat, humiliated by his earlier encounter with the human fleet, was determined to redeem himself in the eyes of the Cardassian Central Command. He argued passionately that the Terran Dominion's advanced technology posed an existential threat to the Cardassian Empire if left unchecked. The historian's voice grew tense. Dukat's words struck a chord with the Central Command. The prospect of acquiring advanced human technology was too tempting to resist. They authorized a preemptive strike against the ancient fleet, with Dukat at the helm of the offensive. Dizer's eyes glinted with a mix of admiration and apprehension. The Cardassians weren't alone in their ambition. The Zorgans and the Krell, eager to secure the ancient fleet for themselves, joined forces with the Cardassian Empire. Together, they amassed a fleet of over 10,000 ships, a force that would have been considered unstoppable in any other circumstance. The Cardassian historian's voice dropped to a whisper. The Allied fleet entered the Vortan expanse, confident in their numerical superiority, but as they engaged the human ships, it became clear that they had grossly underestimated their enemy. Izar's hands moved animatedly as he described the battle. The human ships, despite being outnumbered, proved to be more than a match for the Allied fleet. Their advanced shields shrugged off even the most powerful weapons, while their own armaments cut through the Cardassian Zorgan and Krell formations with effortless precision. The historian's voice grew somber. Dukat's flagship, the CDS Gallo, was one of the first ships to fall. In a cruel twist of fate, Dukat himself perished in the battle, his dreams of redemption and glory shattered in an instant. Izar paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. As the Allied fleet was pushed back, suffering heavy losses, a new player entered the fray. The Terran Dominion's elite fighter pilots, known as the Reapers, joined the battle in their sleek black ships called Wraiths. The Cardassians' eyes widened with a mix of awe and fear. The Reapers tore through the Allied fleet with surgical precision, targeting key ships and disabling them with advanced electronic warfare. Among them was a young pilot named Marcus Reeves, who single-handedly destroyed a Krell dreadnought, turning the tide of the battle in favor of the Terran Dominion. Dizer's voice trailed off, leaving his students hanging on his every word. The room was silent, the only sound being the soft hum of the holographic projector. The Cardassian historian surveyed his audience, their faces a mix of shock, admiration, and fear. Dizer's voice was heavy with the weight of history as he continued his narration. The devastating defeat in the Vortan expanse sent shockwaves rippling through the Cardassian Empire and its allies. The Central Command, reeling from the loss of Dukat and countless ships, knew they had to change course. The Cardassian historian leaned forward, his eyes intense. In a desperate bid for survival, they turned to Garak, the sole survivor of the initial encounter with Captain Cooper. The Central Command tasked him with a crucial mission, to request a meeting with the Terran Dominion leadership and negotiate a truce. Dizar's hands moved animatedly as he described the scene. To the Cardassians' surprise, the Terran Dominion agreed to the meeting, but with a condition. The negotiations would take place on Axiom Prime, a neutral planet far from the reach of both empires. The historian's voice dropped to a whisper, and the students leaned in closer. Garak and his delegation arrived on Axiom Prime, their hearts heavy with the fate of their civilization. As they stepped off their shuttle, they were greeted by the imposing figure of Captain Cooper himself, flanked by a team of human diplomats. Dizer's eyes narrowed as he described the meeting chamber. The room was large and circular, with the humans and Cardassians seated on opposite sides. The tension in the air was palpable as the negotiations began. The Cardassian historian's voice grew grim. It quickly became apparent that the Terran Dominion had no interest in a truce. Cooper's words were laced with arrogance as he revealed the true extent of human power. The ancient fleet, he claimed, was merely a fraction of their military might. Izar's fists clenched as he recounted Cooper's ultimatum. The human captain demanded nothing less than total submission from the Cardassian Empire and its allies. They were to bend the knee to human rule or face complete annihilation. The historian's voice was tinged with a mix of anger and despair. Garak, his options exhausted, had no choice but to agree to Cooper's terms. The once proud Cardassian Empire was reduced to a vassal state in a matter of moments. Izar paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in, But as the meeting concluded, and the Cardassian delegation prepared to leave, a sudden explosion tore through the chamber. The room erupted into chaos as debris rained down upon them. The Cardassian historian's voice was barely audible over the gasps of his students. In the confusion, Garrick and his delegation managed to escape the carnage, but the fate of Captain Cooper and the other human diplomats remained unknown. Isa's eyes swept over the stunned faces of his audience. The attack, it was later revealed, was the work of Zorgon extremists. They were unwilling to accept human dominance and had planted a bomb in a desperate attempt to assassinate the Terran leadership. The historian's voice trailed off, leaving the students hanging on his every word. The implications of the Zorgon attack were staggering. The future of the galaxy, once certain, was now shrouded in uncertainty. Izar's voice grew heavy as he recounted the aftermath of the Zorgon attack on Axiom Prime. The Terran Dominion's response was swift and merciless. Fueled by rage over the assassination attempt, they launched a full-scale invasion of Zorgon space. The historian's hands moved across the holographic display, showing the human fleets tearing through Zorgon defenses. Led by the ancient warships and the Reapers, the Terran Dominion swiftly conquered Zorgon colonies and outposts. Their superior technology and overwhelming force crushed any resistance. Izar zoomed in on a heavily fortified planet, its surface bristling with weapons. Zorgania Prime, the Zorgon homeworld, became the site of the final battle. The human ships bombarded the planet relentlessly, reducing entire cities to rubble. The Cardassian's voice was tinged with a mix of awe and horror as he described the scenes of destruction. The Zorgon defense forces fought fiercely, but they were no match for the Terran Dominion's might. Zorgania Prime burned under the onslaught of the ancient fleet's weapons. Izar's expression darkened as he revealed the Zorgon's desperate gambit. In a last-ditch effort to turn the tide, the Zorgon High Command unleashed a devastating biological weapon, a highly contagious virus engineered to target human DNA. The historian's voice was grim as he described the virus's effects. The virus spread rapidly through the ranks of the human ground forces, causing widespread casualties. Even the Reapers, including the renowned pilot Marcus Reeves, were not immune to its effects. Izar paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. As the situation on Zorgania Prime deteriorated, the Terran Dominion faced a grim choice. Rather than risk the virus spreading to other human colonies, they made a fateful decision. The Cardassian's voice was barely a whisper as he recounted the final moments of the battle. The ancient fleet, positioned in orbit, began a systematic bombardment of the planet's surface. They eradicated all life, effectively quarantining the virus and reducing Zorgania Prime to a barren, lifeless husk. Izar's eyes were filled with a deep sadness as he described the aftermath of the conflict. The Terran Dominion, having suffered heavy losses and facing the grim reality of the Zorgon virus, withdrew from the galactic stage. The ancient fleet, once a symbol of human power, now carried the weight of tragedy as it disappeared back into the depths of space. The historian's voice was somber as he addressed his students. The Cardassians, Krell, and other races were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered civilizations. The true legacy of the ancient fleet was not one of triumph, but of the destructive potential of unchecked power and the consequences of interstellar warfare. As the students filed out of the classroom, visibly shaken by the tale, Izar couldn't help but wonder if the galaxy would ever truly recover from the scars left by the Terran Dominion's brief but devastating reign. The weight of history hung heavy in the air, a testament to the fragility of peace and the... You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.